Okay, apologies, I talked for too long and my 15 minutes was up. So, rearranging formulae part 2, we had just decided that the distance was 3 times 8. So our distance was 24 meters. And we could check that the units were correct. We've got 3 seconds times 8 meters per second. Obviously that gives us 24. But it gives us seconds times meters per second. And we can cancel those seconds divided by seconds. So we do indeed just get left with 24 meters. Okay, so our answer looks correct. The distance travelled by my cat is 24 meters. Okay, let's get one more level trickier. What if our question says, still our same formula, speed equals distance divided by time. What if the question says, what is the time taken for a raindrop to travel 2.5 meters down a window at 0.5 meters per second? So we've got a raindrop, it's falling down a window, and it travels 2.5 meters. That sounds to me like a distance. And the raindrop's traveling at 0.5 meters per second. 0.5 meters per second sounds like a speed, meters per second. So we've got a speed and we've got a distance. And this time the question is asking us for a time. So rather than try and rearrange straight away, let's do our usual trick of putting all the numbers in the right place. So for a start, do we know the speed? Yeah, 0.5 meters per second. Then we can write equals, because our formula tells us speed equals distance divided by time. So next we can put in our distance, and we know the distance, it's 2.5 meters. And our equation tells us that we need to divide that distance by the time. Now this time it's the time that we don't know. We don't know the time taken. We're asked to find out the time. So as we don't know the time, we need to write t, or time, in our equation. Now the tricky part comes. We need to do some rearranging so that we make time the subject of our formula. We need to rearrange for t, or rearrange for time. So I don't like the fact that time's on the bottom of this fraction, time's the denominator. So as we've got divided by time, I'm going to try and multiply this side by time. So we've got 2.5 meters divided by time, multiplied by the time. Now as soon as I times this side by time, I've got 2.5 times the time divided by the time. But time divided by time just cancels out. So we get rid of the time on that side. But we need to remember we multiplied the right hand side by time. So we need to multiply the left hand side by time. Okay, that leaves us with an equation that says time multiplied by 0.5 meters per second is equal to 2.5 meters. So now I need to rearrange for time. And what I could try is dividing both sides by 0.5. Because if I divide this side by 0.5, I can see that I've got time multiplied by 0.5 divided by 0.5. And again, those two cancel out. Multiplying by a number and then dividing by a number will just leave the original number. Okay, but if I divide the left-hand side, let's move that cursor. If I divide the left-hand side by 0.5, I must remember to do the same to the other side. I'm going to divide by 0.5. So we get a new equation that says that time is equal to 2.5 divided by 0.5. Okay, in other words, how many 0.5s go into 2.5? Well, we could check with our calculator, but I think 2.5 divided by 0.5 is going to equal 5. Okay, 5 what? Well, we've got time is 2.5 divided by 0.5, or time is 5 somethings. Or what were our units of time? Our units for time were seconds. Okay, so we should have an answer in seconds. That yellow is not very clear. 5 seconds. Okay, now I could check that. We had 2.5 meters divided by 0.5 meters per second. Now this gets tricky. Now seconds is going to pop up to the top and meters will cancel. So we do end up with 5 seconds. We could check that with our units. So we got the time taken for the raindrop is 5 seconds. Okay, so if we just refresh what we've done, in the first part of the first video, we thought about how we could derive our formula for speed. Okay, maybe with a triangle, maybe with using the units to decide our formula. We then looked at a typical question where we'd got to work out the speed, and we said we'd do the distance divided by the time. We then looked at a question where we had to work out the distance. That was trickier. We had to do the speed times the time, and we went through some inverse operations and some steps you could do to rearrange our formula for distance. It's my cat sneezing. Apologies. Okay, to rearrange our formula for distance. He's been out torturing birds, now he's back in next to me sneezing. We then looked at a question that was even trickier because we had to do a couple of steps in our rearranging to get time equals something. And we decided that time was distance divided by speed. Did I set that right? Yeah, that's right. Time was the distance divided by the speed. Okay. Now all of those last 3 questions, we've used rearranging the formula after we've put the numbers into the right place. But for some of you, you might still prefer to use the triangle method. Now I'd much prefer you to be able to rearrange your formulae without the triangles. That takes some practice. So if you're still relying on a triangle method, where you've got, for example, speed equals distance divided by time, and you need to remember that we've got a multiply here, and a divide here, and a divide here. So in other words, speed, cover up the speed, we get equals distance divided by time. Or if we want to find distance, we cover up the distance, and we're left with speed times time. Or if we want to find time, we cover up the time, and we're left with distance divided by speed. If you prefer to use that triangle method, remember you need to learn what goes into the triangle, or be able to work out what goes where. What I'd like you to do, just to finish off these 2 lessons, is to check back using the triangle that the answer to question 1, if you use the triangle method, still gives you a speed of 150 meters per second. And for question 2, that the distance still comes out to 24 meters. And for question 3, that the time still comes out to 5 seconds. Okay, so I'll let you check back, use the triangle method. Right, you need one method that you know is going to work for you. Over time, I'm hoping that will be deriving the formula for yourselves and then be able to being able to confidently rearrange it. If you need the triangle for now, absolutely fine. I'll leave it to you to check those last 3 questions.